These 10 countries are among the strongest in the entire world. But what if I tell you that each of them has one weakness that can easily make them lose any battle they fight? Yes, even the US has one, but I'll get to them a bit later. So let's start with Germany first. Germany is definitely one of the most powerful countries, as even countries like Russia and France aren't much of a big problem for them. However, it does have a few weaknesses, with one being that they don't have much energy supplies, and that's a big deal since Germany heavily relies on resources, especially natural gas. So you could just find a way to cut them off from their import source, or maybe make the price a bit too high. Then they might think twice if they really need to buy more, which would make their overall production lacking and leave them vulnerable. Also, this method could be applied to their exports in general, since Germany is highly dependent on stuff like that. This might be kind of difficult to pull off, but it's actually going to get the job done. There are still 9 more weaknesses to cover, and let's continue with China. China is one of those self-sufficient countries, so resources might not be an active weakness for them. Using brute force is also out of the question since China's forces and military are pretty strong. So, is there anything that could be used to defeat this giant? Well, firstly, since China does things on a big scale, looking at their energy supplies might pose a huge problem. However, unlike Germany, who would fall almost instantly, China would at the very least hold out. A good weakness, but not the most ideal. One interesting weakness to take advantage of is population. Since China would take a hit if their numbers go up, maybe try becoming the new Genghis Khan in China and create your own little generation, making China a bit more overpopulated, bringing the downfall of their country. But yeah, this is kind of very unlikely. However, the most effective weakness China has that is exploitable is their economy. You see, China's economy is heavily export-driven, so if global demand falls or countries impose trade restrictions, just like it happened with the US, then China's growth slows down significantly. Another country with a very similar weakness is Japan, just like China. Japan is vulnerable to stuff like lack of trade, overpopulation, and others. However, it doesn't really affect them like it does with China. I mean, seriously, they don't have a billion-plus citizens. Japan is built mainly for defense, and they can easily withstand any incoming attacks. Notice how they used kamikazes against the United States, giving them a hard time? Yeah, that's how crazy Japan gets when they get serious. However, there's one thing that Japan still has a big problem facing, and that's natural disasters. Trust me, that's one thing you barely have a chance against. However, being the best in their field, Japan can still hold out. Using their earthquake-resistant buildings, they are able to hold out just fine for several years. But what if you take that away from them? You see where I'm going. Not only would this rain disaster on the entire country, it will still do some very significant damages, like limiting their military strength and reducing their defense capabilities a lot. Finding Japan's weakness was kinda easy, but how about a country who we know little about? France? If France were a person, it would be that stylish friend who shows up late to the party but still steals the show. They have all of the energy power, nuclear weapons, and other things that make them powerful. To be honest, I'll try to be straightforward on this one. France's military is elite but small. They can't fight big wars alone, and usually rely on NATO to back them up. What I'm trying to say is that France might be good in other aspects, but their military isn't really their strongest point right now. 4 down, 6 more to go, and let's cover Russia next. Now, you're probably wondering what kind of weakness Russia has, but don't worry. We would find something to take them down. Firstly, they aren't phased when it comes to military, as they are easily one of the most powerful in history. And since they have some of the best nuclear weapons, they aren't really afraid of anything. They were easily able to fight against Ukraine and did massive damage. However, one thing that we saw from that fight is that Russia can't fight a modern, long war without massive losses. They experience equipment shortages, old tanks, and most of all, they go low on resources. This one's kinda situational and still very difficult to pull off, but I think if Russia gets attacked by 2 countries, it's definitely going to be a big problem. One makes Russia exhaust all their resources, then the other faces Russia while it's still not recovered, similar to the Chechen Wars in 1994-2009. This one might not necessarily be a weakness, but I think the fact that they lack crazy advanced technologies kind of makes it feel like they are behind and gives countries with good technology an advantage when in battle. This might not be a lot, but it makes a big deal since it also affects their production capacity and capabilities. Yeah, Russia's lack of good technology is also a potential weakness. Anyways, moving on to India. Although this country might not seem that scary when it comes to high levels of destruction, they are really a threat when it comes to ground forces. Their battle durability is off the charts, and no other country even comes close. However, even though all of these sound impressive, they still have multiple obvious weaknesses. Firstly, their military isn't that powerful. Yeah, they dominate on land, but still, they aren't the best on the others like sea and air. To be fair, they have really good defensive measures, but still, invasions are quite easy to pull off in India. Another notable weakness is their population. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have a lot of people in a country. It's just that, just like we talked about with China, this could be exploited and used against them. Israel is a very interesting one, as using them, there's no limit to how strong they can become. Their cyber technology is unmatched, and they are easily one of, if not the most, intelligent countries right now. Their defenses are great, so yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Israel looks like a powerhouse, but trust me, it's got some weak spots you can poke. First off, the place is tiny. Like, seriously, you could blink and you're already out of the country. That means if things go bad, there's nowhere to run. Then there's the constant drama of living in a rough neighborhood. Everyone around either hates you or at least side-eyes you. Yeah, their close countries aren't really their close friends, so Israel has to stay on guard all the time, which puts their military under constant pressure. Oh, and resources? To be honest, they don't have much in this aspect as well. And here's the big one, less than 10 million people. So yeah, Israel can't exactly fight a long, dragged-out war without feeling the pain. So yeah, in simple terms, Israel is strong, but they really do face a lot of problems. Let's look at South Korea. This country is packed with everything. It has good technology, strong economy, strong military, and very high-quality infrastructure. In terms of strength, South Korea is definitely among the top 10 in the entire world. However, South Korea looks tough, but it's got its soft spots too. Just like Israel, South Korea lacks landmass. This itself is a weakness, but it also means they fall behind when it comes to resources. And their border? Yeah, it's with North Korea, which means living next to a ticking time bomb. On top of that, South Korea depends heavily on exports and global trade, so if the world economy takes a turn, Korea would take a big hit. They also import most of their energy, so cutting supply lines would hurt real big. Basically, South Korea is strong, but it's standing on very narrow ground. The United Kingdom seems to be a big deal. They might not be the empire it once was, but it's still packing serious strength. First, its global influence is massive. It has a powerful economy fueled by finance in London, one of the world's biggest financial hubs. It's also got nuclear weapons and a highly advanced military, making it one of the top defense players. Add in the fact it has lots of friends and the UK becomes literally unstoppable. So what's its weakness? Well, the sun. Don't act surprised. It rains so much that the sun probably needs a tourist visa to visit. If you're in the UK, I know what I'm talking about. This isn't really a weakness, but yeah, it definitely has to be mentioned. And finally, the USA. The US is a beast when it comes to power. First, it's huge. Land, resources, you name it. America's got plenty. Oil? Check. Farmland? Check. It has the most advanced weapons, the biggest navy, and an air force that can reach anywhere on the planet. Add to that its economy, which is the largest in the world, is powered by high-tech, finance, and innovation. Basically, the US isn't just strong. It's the heavyweight champ sitting in the middle of the ring with every advantage possible. However, it does have an obvious weakness. TikTok. Okay, I'm just kidding. At least a little, cause constant drama and multiple ideas make decision-making a nightmare. Also, they do usually have some gun incidents, making the nation a little bit chaotic. Another big weakness is that they try to do too much. America loves playing world hero, but stretching its military and resources to fix every problem can backfire, leaving them drained and overextended. Plus, the US is so involved globally that if something goes wrong abroad, it often gets blamed or dragged into conflicts it didn't start. Basically, the US is strong, but sometimes it bites off way more than it can chew. Check out this video to see me create the most powerful country in history. Don't be shy, check it out.